Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to answer the question, why is this bread good for diabetics? My name is Mr. A1C. For those of you that are new to the channel, thank you for joining and subscribing. We'll get over the disclaimer part really quick. This is not a medical channel. We're not discussing anything with regards to medicine. I'm not giving you any medical advice. Although I do have a medical background, this channel is solely for me to share my journey as a diabetic and how I was able to reverse my diabetes, where I'm no longer diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic. So if you find some value in this channel, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, and comment, guys. Let's get started. So why is this bread good for diabetics? A wide range of bread options exist. Some nutritious or more nutritious than others. Highly processed white bread isn't beneficial for anyone, particularly people like us with diabetes, right? So you stay away from all the white stuff, they say, right? The white breads, the white flours, and all that kind of stuff. It's refined. Conversely, breads made from a whole grain, especially those undergoing slow-paced fermentation, like this particular bread, are rich in fiber and provide easily accessible micronutrients. Have you guys guessed what bread we're talking about today, guys? We're talking about sourdough bread. That's right, good old sourdough bread. Everybody loves sourdough bread, right? All right, so let's get that out the way. I'll actually sit it right here so you can take a look at it. So, diabetics and sourdough bread. Individuals with diabetes or those prone to it may find sourdough bread to be a beneficial addition to their diet. As per studies, not only does sourdough form part of a nutritious diet, but it can also aid in regulating blood sugar levels, which is crucial for diabetic or diabetes management. Bread crafted from whole grain flours play a key part in promoting a healthy gut microbiome. Also, they're talking about the bacteria in the gut, the good bacteria, the flora, the microbiome, whatever you want to call it. That's what they're talking about, as they contain insoluble fiber that remains undigested by human digestive enzymes. Eating bread from sprouted grains or sourdough can contribute to steadier blood sugar levels. This is due to the fermentation process and the presence of fiber. Again, guys, we're talking about fiber. I hope you're seeing a common theme here, guys. Antioxidants, fiber, those kinds of things. Keep that in mind as we talk about all these things in all of the videos here. So eating bread made from sprouted grains or sourdough can contribute to steadier blood sugar levels. This is due to the fermentation process, guys, and the presence of fiber, which can positively impact the digestive and immune systems. Now remember, the entire health of your body is tied to your gut health. And that's why it's so important to make sure you have fiber and have foods that are favorable to your gut bacteria. Consuming sourdough bread as part of a diet rich in unprocessed plant foods may help slow down the absorption of carbohydrates by the body. You notice unprocessed diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is really processed food disease. So anything you could eat unprocessed is probably going to be the best for our health, we as diabetics. So what is sourdough bread, guys? Sourdough bread is created by a combination of flour and water, and then allowing the mixture to develop and mature beneficial bacteria through the exposure to oxygen. So you ever heard them say something about, or have you ever heard them say something about they've got to make this, I don't know what it's called. It's the sourdough culture thing they make, and that goes into the bread to make it sourdough. So that's kind of what they're talking about. The natural sugars in the flour are broken down by bacteria and wild yeast, resulting in the production of compounds like lactic acid and carbon dioxide. The lactic acid and carbon dioxide produced by bacteria and wild yeast during the fermentation process contribute to the characteristic holes and fluffiness of sourdough bread. So if you take a look, see all the holes, the nooks and crannies, and it's so fluffy? That's what they're talking about. But it also imparts a tangy and sour flavor, which, I can't say all people like. I love it. And I'll tell you guys how I have sourdough, what kind of sourdough I have, how I have it, all the nuances of how I do it, and how it has helped me to reduce my blood sugar levels, and I continue to eat it. So sourdough versus the other kinds of breads out there, right? So there are many other types of bread out there. Many people believe that bread is high in fiber, but the reality is that most bread is actually high in carbohydrates, which we as diabetics probably already know, and low in fiber, making it a poor choice for individuals with diabetes who are looking to stabilize their blood sugar levels. Us. We know that already because the doctors tell us this. Stay away from the bread, stay away from the rice, the white bread, and stuff like that, the carbohydrates as a whole. As a result, bread is not recommended for those with diabetes overall. There are exceptions to everything. That's why we have this channel, because this channel is not about abstinence from anything in particular. It's about using common sense and approaching things in a way where your lifestyle change allows you to have the foods you've had in the past, but maybe in a little bit different form. So as a result, bread is not recommended for those with diabetes. That's what they say. Consuming sourdough bread can benefit digestive health by promoting the growth of beneficial gut bacteria, which can help with digestion and potentially influence blood sugar metabolism. Sourdough bread has a lower glycemic index compared to other types of bread, ranging from 48 to 66, while other types of bread can have an index as high as 75 on the GI scale. So if you're not familiar with the glycemic index, it's a scale that goes up to 100 and typically anything 50 and below is favorable for us diabetics to eat. Not all the time, but for the most part. I mean, there's the glycemic index and the glycemic load as well. And I'll talk about the glycemic load, or how I look at the glycemic load and how that affects us as diabetics. I think that's one of the keys for us as diabetics to understand. You don't want to abstain from anything. We eat everything here. All right. So I had dessert last night, guys. I had apple pie with ice cream. And part of that, me having that, was not, I can't have apple pie because it's sweet, and I can't have ice cream because it's sweet. It's me thinking, okay, I'm going to utilize the glycemic load, which means a combination of all the foods I'm eating to help mitigate or blunt my blood sugar spike. So I was able to do that last night, and you can too. Just have to use common sense. So sourdough bread is considered a healthy option due to its high mineral content, including manganese, selenium, and iron. However, guys, other foods like salmon, dark green leafy vegetables, and lean meats can provide even more of the nutrients that we need without causing a spike in our blood sugar levels. So, what we're saying here is sourdough bread can work for you as a diabetic, but it's not something you're going to be eating all the time. I mean, you got to focus on some of the healthier foods as well. Your leafy green vegetables, which I'm not a salad fan, but I do it because I know it's good for my health. But I focus more on just regular vegetables, mixed vegetables and things like that, not salad. But salad is part of the diet as well for us. And I do focus on meats. Like I had a steak last night. I had chicken last night. It was very lean. Had nothing on it. It was just cooked on the grill, which the way I prefer it, and you have good fats with it. So we'll talk about that at the end there. So baker's yeast produces bread with a softer texture and a sweeter flour than ordinary yeast. And it is the yeast that is used to make regular bread. So that's what we're used to. That's why we love regular bread. It's just really good tasting. Unlike the conventional fast-acting yeast, the process of generating sourdough releases nutrients at a much slower and more gradual pace. So sourdough bread and diabetes. According to research, consuming sourdough bread can have a positive impact on our blood sugar and insulin levels. And again, guys, we're talking about research here. So you're going to have one guy's going to tell you it's great, and another guy is going to tell you it's not. So, and it's up to us as diabetics to figure out what works for us in our particular situation. In a study with adult participants who had impaired glucose tolerance, those who ate sourdough bread for dinner had lower blood glucose and insulin responses compared to those who ate conventional bread made with baker's yeast for lunch. So the key here is dinner and lunch. So what it's telling you, the effect of sourdough, they didn't have the sourdough bread at lunchtime. They had the sourdough bread at dinner time, which is closer to the next morning, right? Because your fasting blood glucose is usually taken in the morning. So they didn't have the regular white bread and the sourdough bread at noon. They had the sourdough bread at dinner, but the regular white bread at noon. So what that means to me, or what that tells me overall, is although they had the sourdough bread at dinner, where you had less time to get a better fasting blood glucose, sourdough bread still did well during a shorter period of time, as opposed to the white bread that was eaten at lunch, which had a longer period of time until you had a fasting blood glucose in the morning, and it still was not able to give you a more favorable, a better blood sugar result. Hope that makes sense. A little confusing. In other words, the sourdough was more powerful in a shorter period of time to give you better results. So according to research, sourdough bread has been shown to induce a larger insulin response than non-sourdough bread over a period of 180 minutes after a meal. So your postprandial blood sugar levels. Additionally, the effects of sourdough bread on appetite suppression and the feeling of satiety, which is your fullness, were not significantly different from the placebo bread. And that's interesting because that's another study giving you the adverse result, right? Or the inverse results, excuse me. Additionally, according to the study, the sourdough wholemeal wheat bread had the lowest postprandial glucose and insulin response compared to the other three types of bread evaluated, which were white wheat bread, wholemeal wheat bread, and wholemeal bread made with xylanase. So what is our conclusion here? Every loaf of bread is unique due to factors such as the unique type of grains utilized, the processing of the grains, the method of dough preparation, and the baking technique also utilized. These variations can affect the composition of bread products and in turn influence how our bodies metabolize them. During the sourdough bread making process, the grain, typically wheat, is fermented with lactic acid bacteria and wild yeast. The fermentation process involves the bacteria breaking down the grain as a byproduct. Lactic acid is produced. Sourdough bread differs from other types of bread due to its fermentation process, which results in a lower amount of simple sugars and higher concentration of lactic acid, which benefits us as type 2 diabetics. This process gives sourdough its distinctive characteristics and flavor. Sourdough bread is a healthier option for individuals with diabetes who are following a low-carb diet, as it contains fewer simple sugars and higher levels of lactic acid compared to other types of bread, as we just mentioned. Sourdough bread is experiencing a resurgence due to its impressive nutritional profile. It is rich in essential vitamins and minerals like folate and iron, as well as healthy carbohydrates, protein, and fiber. Sourdough bread offers numerous health benefits, including improved digestion, reduced risk of chronic disease, and promotion of overall wellness for us diabetes. By incorporating sourdough bread into our diet, either from a local bakery or by making it ourselves, we can experience these benefits firsthand. So, how do I use sourdough bread? Because I'm talking about sourdough bread. I'm not talking about it just for the sake of talking about it because it's a diabetic topic. I'm talking about it because I actually eat sourdough bread several times a week. And I found over the years, just like everything else we talk about in the videos, that it seems to work for me. And the way I found out about it is we'd go out to dinner and I typically would stay away from the breads. And every time there was sourdough bread, I'd give sourdough bread a try. And I noticed after dinner, just like the results I found out when I would drink beer at dinner when I went out, was with sourdough bread. When I ate sourdough bread, my fasting blood glucose next morning was actually pretty good. So I wasn't sure, so I did it multiple times. Every time we went out to dinner, if there was sourdough bread, I had sourdough bread because I wanted to make sure it was actually the sourdough bread, put me in that position to have a favorable blood sugar number in the morning. And yes, it was the sourdough. So, they're not all created equal, right? We all know that. So let's talk about that. So, if you're going to get sourdough, try to get organic sourdough bread, guys. Get a whole grain sourdough bread if you can get it. Read the ingredients. Make sure you don't have a bunch of different chemicals in there, Make sure that you have fiber, fat, and protein as well with all of your meals. So that's a glycemic load that I talked about previously, right? Glycemic load is a little bit different from a glycemic index because you can have a 50 glycemic index, or let's say you have a 99 glycemic index. It's like way up there on the charts, right? But your glycemic load is low depending on what you eat, because what I found as a diabetic is if I can eat things that are not the best for me, but I can incorporate the good fats that we talked about, the MUFAs, the monounsaturated fatty acids, or the PUFAs, the polyunsaturated fatty acids with my meals. I can incorporate protein, not protein by itself, because if you have protein by itself, it's going to raise your blood sugar. So you have to incorporate all this stuff together. And I incorporate fiber with that. Those three elements help blunt the blood sugar spike, regardless of what I'm eating. If it's something I'm eating that's really bad, it's not going to be really bad. It might be bad or might be better. But if it's something I'm eating that's medium, 50-ish, around the glycemic index number or scale, I'm going to have a really good blood sugar response. Now, will you? I don't know. You're going to have to try this. And, I would like some feedback from you guys. Give this stuff a try and let me know, what's working for you, what's not working for you. If there's something I'm missing here, let me know. I'm always open to learning. We're always learning, especially with diabetes. I'm always learning. Even though I'm no longer diagnosed as a diabetic, I'm still practicing everything we're talking about in all of these videos. I have to. If not, I'm going to end up being a diabetic again. So this is not a, something where you just, I'm not a diabetic anymore and you don't have to worry about it. I have to continue this lifestyle change. So that's what I'm sharing with you guys. Now, one thing you want to do with this sourdough bread and everything that we're talking about here, check your blood sugar after your meals. See what it looks like. Check your fasting blood sugar 8 to 10 hours later on and see what that looks like as well. Because I'm very curious, the information I'm sharing with you, how that affects you and others. So, if you want to post that, great. If it's a privacy thing, I fully understand. But if you want to post information, give me some feedback. I'd love to hear back from you guys, because that will tell me how I'm doing in terms of sharing the information with you guys, whether I'm accurate or not. So pay attention to when you eat it so you can check your fasting blood sugar in the morning before eating anything as well. So in the mornings, if you're going to do what I do it 4 or 5 times, different things that I try to eat and then the next morning I check my fasting blood sugar levels. And usually I'm eating those things at dinner the night prior. And I'll do it 4 or 5 times to make sure that's actually what caused my sugar to actually go up or go down. And that's what has helped me accumulate all of this information I'm going to be sharing with you guys on this channel. Okay, guys, that's all I have for you today. Today was all about a special bread, sourdough bread that I stumbled on because I thought nothing was good for me. And I stumbled on this and it's good for me. So I'm hoping it will be good for you guys as well. Have a great day.